Hello.
Hello.
So you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Hold on. I'm going to turn my volume down for a second because believe it or not, oops, that was just me rolling back the chair. It is currently recording as we speak.
Great.
All right. So thank you. I cannot believe that we are meeting again. So, for everyone that is listening, I have the pleasure of presenting to you again Raphael Polk, which, as you may recall, he was the first person with whom I collaborated. And that's a key concept for me because earlier this year in January, I created, I was on a roll. I created like a vision collage. I did like a two or three vision boards. And on one of my vision boards that I created, I had the following words, and they were creativity, integrity, respect, collaboration, learning, excellence, and service. So Raphael was the first person that I had the pleasure of speaking to in my inaugural Ancestral Muses episode. So thank you for being willing to come back again.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
And so I would highly recommend that you go back for those that are listening. And I do appreciate whoever is listening that you take the time to go and listen to the first podcast episode that I had with Raphael because he shared a lot about his journey relative to how he became a music producer. And then toward the end of that podcast, he shared with me that he had written a book called Producer Instruction Manual. So I told him I would read the book. And once I read the book, we would speak again. So obviously, I have read the book. And so we're now going to talk a little bit about the book.
All right.
All right. So, um, I guess the first thing is you dedicated it to your wife and to your son.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was struck by the first sentence, which says, on January 1, 2015, I left my hometown, Orlando, Florida, to set out to Dakar, Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Now that was a little bold, was it not? Because I mean, how many people do you know, just like all of a sudden say, I'm out. I'm going. I mean, for real, but I mean, I know there's more to the story than that, which is why I'm recommending that people listen to the first podcast episode. So you didn't like literally leave Orlando and go to Senegal, correct?
um, I actually did. I left Orlando and I kept traveling. When I finally stopped traveling, I was in Senegal.
Okay, so see, that's we're gonna leave that right there. So people, to get the full import of what that one sentence is, you really need to go and you need to listen to the first episode that I did with Raphael. Okay, so immediately, what I was struck by when I started reading this is when you talk about your experiences in creating music when you were in Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
And what really spoke to me is when you speak about your introduction to um, a drum, which in
Mm-hmm.
Africa is called the djembe.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you just tell those that are listening what a djembe drum is?
Yeah, a djembe drum. Um, where we were, I was instantly welcomed by a group of drummers, and there's couple different drums there, but the one they started me on, which was the most traditional, was a djembe. It was kind of made out of either lamb or goat skin, and it's strung and tied in a way where everything on the top is where you hit it, where the lambskin is, and it has an opening on the bottom, and you kind of fit it between your legs, and you kind of create a secure bond between your legs, your hands, and the drum, and it allows you to play either aggressively, dramatic, um, boldly, and it's really popular there. Traditionally for worship services and stuff, where we were at in Sally at the beach, there was a lot of like drum circles where people worshiped and danced and prayed. And also when people came, like the Europeans, and they would come to travel, um, to that part of Africa and stay in hotels, the people, including the drum group that I was with, they entertained the Europeans with traditional African music. So that's a little bit about the djembe and how it was used in the setting where I was introduced with it.
Okay, would you say that experience had any effect on music that you created during that time or since that time?
Yeah, most definitely. I thought of music differently for the first time. With my background, being in America, I was introduced to music electronically, but um, for the first time when I got the djembe, and I bought my own soon after. Um, I realized that if you want the music to keep going, you have to keep playing. So it's not like electronic music where you can uh, draw in some notes or compose some notes and then push a loop button where it loops, and then you have all this time you created. Instead, the djembe is a live instrument. So if you want the song to be a minute long, you have to beat your drum and play your drum for a minute long. So it changed the way I thought about um, the, I guess, the struggle and the feel of music.
Okay. So, for someone like myself, I love music. And whenever I travel, and I've been very fortunate to travel extensively, I always bring back a CD or numerous CDs from the places that I've traveled. But essentially, I consume music, meaning I buy it, I listen to it, and that's the extent of what I know about music. I never really thought about what goes into the production of music, like how music is produced. And so your manual, the producer instruction manual, literally changed my perception because it laid out in a very clear format what that process is. And so, also, what I was struck by is your creative process, um, where you talk about you seemingly dream about the music before you create the music.
Yeah, dream, play, rise. That was the motto.
Okay, would you repeat that again for the audience?
Dream, play, rise. That's the three steps I believe every composition and work should take, or that's what I take. I dream about the music, which is play around with the idea. You might talk to your friends, you might be riding in a car and somebody says something really funny, and you're like, we need to put that into a musical expression. So you just dream about it and get your ideas and get the it's really about the desire, because when I'm producing music, you get out what you put in. So whatever's inside of me is inevitably going to be what comes out. And so you get those desires, and like I talk about also in I think the one of the first chapters is I talk about an uncontrollable fountain, which is where you have so much pressure built up because you maybe you didn't compose for a day or two, and you have all these desires and you really want to express yourself, and then when you get to the studio you just let it out, and that would be when you start playing with the ideas and you play the instruments and you touch the boards, the keyboards, and then you're starting to lay some stuff down, and then rise is when you pretty much look back and you're like, wow, did we do that? And you're like, wow, that was, you kind of sit back and pat yourself on the back, like, yeah, that was pretty good.
Well, I probably, I don't know how many pages I got into the book, and then it was like I had like a aha or a light bulb moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if from the moment I met you, this was always in the back of my mind, or maybe reading the beginning parts of the book about how you create music. But for the listening audience, what happened is I reached out to Raphael. This would have been like on May 21st, which was just a few days ago. And I asked him, did he still have the djembe drum?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him questions about creating music that could channel some of the experiences or places that I've traveled to, that I could then take that music that he would create for me and use it um, on my podcast. And so
Mm-hmm.
we had this exchange. And when I first reached out to you, what, if anything, did you think of my request? Were you like, oh my God, she's crazy? You're like, never thought about it? Or what was your like initial impression?
Um, I like this question. My initial impression, um, for me, um, I've been doing things for a certain way for so long. So I'm at a place now where I get new people are telling me new things, go see Tiger King, or, you know, coronavirus is here, and I get all this new information. And what I learned to do is just let it sit. I learned to not respond immediately, um, because I'm just not ready for those new ideas. I have to find a relationship. Um, with everything, I think with everything comes a relationship. My wife just brought me some tea. Thank
Okay.
you. So everything.
Tell your wife to say hello. Tell her to say
Oh,
hello.
we
She
can't
can be
come
part of
say
this
hello.
experience too.
Just say it right here. Say it right here. Say hello.
Hello,
Okay, thank you.
Would you mind telling everybody what your name is?
Will you say your name? She's talking to me. Say your name and where you from.
my name is Makia Kante.
And where you from?
I'm from West Africa,
Where exactly?
Guinea Conakry.
Woo!
I don't think they heard where she said she was from. Where did she
She
say she
said her
was?
name is Makia Kanti, and she's from West Africa. I asked her specifically to say it, and she said Guinea Conakry.
Ah, okay. So I've already warned her. So we should also let her share that she has talent. So what talents does your wife, Makia, have?
What talents is my wife? She is a homemaker. She can make a home.
And other than a homemaker, okay, if
Oh.
she can speak for herself, where is she
Well,
at? Tell her to
I have
speak for
headphones
herself.
on. I have headphones on, so she can't hear unless
Okay.
yeah, she's
Well,
cleaning the kitchen.
I'm going to share that she also creates magnificent African clothing, does she not?
Yeah, it's very, very nice.
She's a seamstress, okay?
Yep.
And so I'm going to share with you all that her native language is French, is it
Hmm.
not, Raphael?
Yeah, well, her native language, like her first language, is Susu. That's the
Okay.
local language, like in Guinea Conakry. And then yeah, the French colonized Guinea, so they picked up on French as well. The currency is actually the Guinea franc. It's about how much is $1 to $1? I know we know that a thousand US dollars is was it was 900 no 9,500,000 Guinea franc. Sorry, I can't tell you what $1 was, but we were looking it up the other day. So 1,000 US dollars is 9,500,000 Guinea francs.
Well, just as an aside, I've always wanted to expand my French speaking skills. So I'm going to enlist your wife to help me with that. And I believe
Yeah,
you also said that you want to
I
work on
do.
your French skills. So this is going to become a collaborative effort. And audience, stay tuned. So maybe Rafi and I will get good enough that we can have an episode with Makaya and she can speak to us and share some of her experiences. Okay, so now getting back to my request and what you said about my request.
Hmm.
So then when did it click for you or when was a connection made that you were like, yes, I think I can make this happen.
Yeah, something happened the next day. So I let it sit. I didn't respond. I read it and I let it sit. And the next day, um it was something you said, the words you chose, one of the words was like a good keyword for me. And so I started researching and because like the last time I seen that drum, I moved a couple times, so I was like, well, where is that drum? And so I actually found the drum, and then boom, just like touch the book, and you become a producer. I touched the drum, I found the drum, and I'm like, oh yeah, then I can do this. So once I put my hand on the drum and I located where the drum was, which was in my dad's garage, um, and we have some nice cases for our drum. Um, yeah,
Wow.
so I found the drum, and then everything started unfolding, and then I talked to you, and then I reached out to someone. Big shout out to Carolyn Harding. She's another one of my mentors. She I I reached out to her and we did the whole step. We dreamed it. We had some ideas and we looked up some stuff on YouTube and we looked at the music that Pamela gave us to look, and we had some common links between all of us, some of the people we knew, and that was honestly, from there it was a dream play rise. But once I touched the drum, I know I sent you a message back like, yeah, I can do this.
All right. So I think it was when you sent me that message that I then said what I was going to share was some of the CDs that in my travels I had acquired. So for the listening audience, if you're interested in expanding your musical boundaries, I'm going to share the name of the CDs and the artists that
Nice.
I shared with Raphael. So there was Bali Meets Africa and Java by Kitut Suwintra and Django Mango. There was Wizard of Tabla featuring Ala Rakha, Zakir Hussan, and Fazal Kurasi. There was Dee Bridgewater, Red Earth, A Malayan Journey. There was Jonathan Butler, live in South Africa. There was Lane Mali, and the title of that CD was called Airlines. There was
Mm.
Celia Cruz, Carnival de Exitos. There was Lifescapes, World Flutes. There was Compe Segundo, Yo Vengo Aquí. Son Tres, Bien a lo Cubano, Angelique Kijo Aye, and Shabalala Rhythm Umankwandan.
Hmm.
And I know I butchered up that last one, the South African one,
Hmm.
but those were some of the CDs that I sent. Not necessarily because we also had a discussion,
Hmm.
and in the book you talked about how music is
Hmm.
created, the process of sampling
Hmm.
beats, and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about any of that right
Hmm.
now, and if not, then I got another question or two, so I'm gonna give you a choice.
Okay, yeah. Yes, yes, yeah. I'm a type of guy where yes is always like my go-to. I rarely use no, and I default to like wait because I feel like that's what God says to me. So like with my children and with all my relationships, I tend to say yes unless it's something that's really blocking it. So like when Pamela sent the request, it was I think it was like a yes, but don't say it because I like to I learned about commitment. I think we talked about it in the last podcast, but I went to a college graduation and they had a guest speaker and it was about the freedom of commitment. And that speech changed my life. And I decided if I'm gonna get somewhere in this life, I'm gonna have to commit. I can't just be halfway in, halfway out. So um I remember more vividly, I I I I touched the drum and then I happened to be in a very quiet place. I was at the Lake Mary City Hall. And I was sitting on a park bench and 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 that's when I could I could see it a lot clearer than in the walls of my house because we're in the middle of quarantine and stuff. Um So, the walls here in my living don't give me too much inspiration. So when I was out in nature with the lake and the trees, and it was really beautiful. I'm all for nature now. I didn't know how much nature I was missing. But when I got out to nature, I could see like the music started breathing through me. And so with that said, um
So you
so
mean to tell me that you actually at Lake Mary City Hall threw down and started playing, and were there people around, and did they appreciate what they were getting? Because if not,
yeah.
you were bringing Africa to Lake Mary. Hello, right?
Yeah, I've been walking more. So I found nature again, and I think that's something you helped me with. I think you're a very natural nature person, correct? Like by far, right?
I shared with you that since the whole world has been placed in timeout, it really is an opportunity for people to go inward.
Yeah.
And I shared with you that I write every day in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I have a uh, what do I want to call it?
Hammock.
Thank you. See what I'm talking about?
I listen to you.
I have a hammock. A
Mm-hmm.
senior moment, people. I have a hammock in my backyard that every day, weather permitting, I go and I lay in the hammock and I look up through the limbs of this oak tree that I planted. Wow, I don't know, 20 something years ago. It is a humongous oak tree.
Mm-hmm.
And from that vantage point, either sometimes the sun shines directly on me through the limbs because we
Mm-hmm.
all need vitamin D,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes it's kind of filtered, and then I can look at the clouds and how the clouds form and play across the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an experience a couple of weeks ago. I have a coral honeysuckle bush,
Hmm.
and I was in the hammock and I saw something, and at first it didn't dawn on me what it was, but what it was a hummingbird. I had
It was little,
never ever seen a hummingbird, and it
small
was
little
there.
hummingbird.
Yeah, it was there in the coral honeysuckle, and I was just like, wow. So I think it's really important, you know, since there's been a lack of movement, people aren't able to drive,
Mm-hmm.
planes haven't been polluting the skies,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Mother Earth or
Mm-hmm.
Gaia has like,
Mm-hmm.
she's like, okay, see, I had to put y'all in time out
Mm-hmm.
to slow you down
Mm-hmm.
so you could think about what kind of a world do you want to live in? Okay. And we only have this one earth
Yeah.
to live. So we got to learn how to coexist. And we have not really been kind to Mother Nature. You can go anywhere, with fracking, with, cutting down timber, with running oil pipelines through sacred Native American lands. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So it's interesting to me that being of African descent, nature and our connection to earth,
Oh
I
yeah.
really believe
Oh
is
yeah.
is a part of who we are, our DNA, and lots of other indigenous cultures
Mm-hmm.
also, I believe, are very respectful of Mother Earth and in tune with the cycles of the moon and the
Mm-hmm.
stars and the sun and all these things that before we were literally and figuratively placed in a world timeout, people were generally too busy to take
Yeah.
time to appreciate. And not everybody is on the same page, and not everybody can and will appreciate. But for
Mm-hmm.
those of us that do take the time,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a beautiful thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important that moving forward, that people decide what kind of a world
Mm-hmm.
do they want to live in? What kind of world do they want their children to live in? Because things are never going to be the same as they were
Mm-hmm.
prior to the timeout.
Yeah. It's like
So, yes,
9/11.
nature is important to me, and I'm glad it's important to you. I mean, I think it gives you clarity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And appreciation and being grateful for the life that we're able to lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like 9/11, that impacted just America, but or that was just in America, but that affected, the whole world and for such a long time already. And now this is like this corona hit every country. So the changes we're gonna see and the fallout is gonna be after, everything is done and the spread, God God willing, stops, um, the fallout is going to change. But I think our the next generation will be equipped to handle the challenges. I think the generation like the generation right now is doing their best to hand off to the next generation
Mm-hmm.
and I think they are seeing now with this it's like a little reminder like oh we know you guys love your technology you guys love your Facebook and your iPhones and your TikTok and your tablets but listen don't forget me don't forget nature don't forget you can walk around the block don't forget you can ride your bike don't forget there's nature trails don't forget you can walk your dog don't forget you can go fishing out on a boat. So I think this time is, like you said, a world timeout. I think it's it there has to be a reason for this, and I know in my life, I think I've been dealing like pretty well. It has been tough, of course, and but it's just we're almost moving faster but slower at the same time because we have to adapt, but we also have to be aware of our surroundings. And when I
Absolutely. And it's through these experiences and these times, and for people like you who are creative, I mean, it really hopefully expands how you think about the world, your creative process,
hmm
which brings me to the other day
hmm
you came by and we had a discussion, and I shared with you, I guess the reason when I was reading the book, and again, I would recommend, for people who love music. I mean, like I said, I am a consumer of music, but in reading your manual, it really did help me understand how music is created and specifically how you create music.
yeah.
So if people are interested in getting this, how would they get a copy of Producer Instruction Manual by one Raphael Polk?
I give them two ways. The first way is to go to my website, www.raphaelpolk.com. That's www.raphaelpolk.com. On the homepage, you can order the book right there. You'll see the cover. It says Producer Instruction Manual, and I'll be able to get you a copy that way. The second would be similar to that. You can just email me and I'll set it up. It's rp@raphaelpolk.com. And here, I think my name will be in the podcast comments or title.
It will, and I can also put that information in the podcast so people can have the information that way. But I just wanted to share that you, I believe, created that website after we had our first podcast episode. Did you not?
Um, the website is it's such a project. It is just, it's like infinite amount of land, but I had the website for a while. Um, the website. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had the website for a while. It was just at really primitive
Oh,
stages,
okay.
and it wasn't in public for a long time. I was just adding
Okay.
content, so it didn't go public until like March, and now I'm working tremendously trying to just get it to the people who are looking for that type of content, no matter where they are in the world. Um, so that's one of my big projects right now, and I made some promo for the book, and maybe I can send you a link to that. And I made promo for the
Absolutely.
website. But yeah, the website that's my big baby right now because it offers so much potential. It's almost infinite potential, and it's for a great price. So like um the um the value that it can deliver to people for the cost that I have to endure, it could be a real great thing to a lot of people for a long time.
Excellent. So, the other thing I wanted to touch on is the other day when you came by and we had a conversation, I shared with you that in my mind, and I guess that's why when I read in the manual about the djembe
hmm
drum, in all the places, in all the countries that I've traveled, in fact, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say all over the world,
hmm
drums or drumming have a place in most societies.
hmm Yeah, for sure.
And so, definitely in the music that I sent you, some of it had drumming. And in my travels, um, I've been struck by the universality of drumming, which is why music is one of those things that is indeed universal. And I think there is something primal about drumming that people all over the world, no matter your age, no matter, the culture, your religion, people respond to that.
Hmm.
And so I liken that to like the heartbeat,
Yeah.
a heartbeat.
Hmm.
Like drumming is like the heartbeat.
Hmm.
And because all of civilization came from the continent of Africa, I think that's why all cultures respond the way that they do to drumming, because their DNA recognizes, you know, that hey, this is a part of me, it's part of my DNA.
Hmm.
That's just my thought. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Before I went to Africa, I like never played a drum, but like I said, a little bit about the story. Like I said, I traveled from Florida to Oregon, and then pretty much within 30 days flew from Oregon to Dakar, um, Senegal. And then we ended up going to pretty much the beach, which was called Sally, or Mbor. It was a village, or not a village, but like a beach town. And I guess my wife had friends, and I just started getting bored, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna take you with us." And I remember very clearly we would, walk the long walk from the compound into like the middle of the little forest area and sit down on some rocks, and they began to teach me some exercises with the drum, and we did that daily for my activity. And then soon I'm like, yeah, I gotta get me one of these. And I bought the drum with no money. Um, I didn't speak their language. I had a lighter, and I went to I just was roaming through the village, or the town, the beach town, and I don't know if he understood me, but I think I was trying to tell him that I don't have money, I have a lighter. And he said, okay. He said, pay me later. And I took the drum, and then took it back to the compound, and then a couple days later we sent him the money. And but a real, like, something I remember was like one of these, like, I think call it an aha moment. We were in the drum circle. It was like three of the guys and me, and we are all just drumming, and all of a sudden, like, a herd of cows slowly walking like through right next to us. And I'm flipping out because I'm like, this doesn't happen in Lake Mary.
I guess not. So for people who don't know, not to cut you off, but when I moved to Lake Mary from Philadelphia, I didn't know anyone in Lake Mary. I didn't have family in Lake Mary. And when I would tell people I lived in Lake Mary, they would look at me like I had five heads, as though, you know, a black female who, once I opened my mouth, they could obviously tell I was not from Florida. But it's interesting because I was born in the South. I was born in Georgia, but I didn't live there because my father was in the military. So I've lived all over. So I really don't have an appreciable accent that I'm aware of. But my formative years, I grew up in Philadelphia. So people would look at me like I had five heads when I told them I lived in Lake Mary, as though it was beyond their comprehension that as a black female, I could live in some place like Lake Mary, which at the time, and it has grown exponentially, it was considered like the other edge of midnight. It was like the middle of nowhere, according to most people. I don't know if that was your experience, but you you grew up in Lake Mary,
Right.
right? Was that your experience, or when you told people you lived in Lake Mary, where they were like, "What? No big deal."
When I told people where in Portland or Africa or
Well, in Florida, I mean, because it was my experience when I moved here from Philly, and I told people I lived in Lake Mary. They were like, "Lake Mary, like what the H?" You know what I'm
oh
saying? I'm like, I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, yeah. When I was my Lake Mary experience was kind of when I was younger, and I was so Lake Mary, I didn't even go to Orlando unless it was for a Magic game, which was rare.
So you were Lake Mary, Team Lake Mary all the way. That
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
extent of
That
your
was
world
that
at
was my
that point.
fishbowl, and so everybody else I
Wow.
knew was in Lake Mary or knew Lake Mary because they were in here. Definitely Seminole County. I didn't mess around with any Orange County. I never went to like a Boone game or a Trojans game or Evans or barely, not even Winter Park really. Yeah, to
Wow.
me, Oviedo and Lake Howell is like the furthest thing ever.
That's so interesting. But because of my background, my life, it's all been about exploring exploration. So I get around. I mean, I go all over Orange
Mm,
County,
that's
Oviedo, wherever I
nice.
need to go, Winter Park. And it is. So, I mean, to all that to say, I think it's important. But in your lifetime, you certainly have expanded your
Yeah.
horizons because you have indeed traveled. And the point that I want to get to
Hmm.
people is it is important to travel outside of the bubble of where you live, if at all
Yeah.
possible, because it does change your life.
Yeah. And there's a lot of our friends and they're great, but just for some reason just some people just can't get out of the hometown.
Yeah.
But,
For some people, they're comfortable with what they know, fear of the unknown, or thinking, it's expensive, they can't make it happen. I mean, think about it. There are plenty of people who have never ever had a
mm,
passport.
yeah. Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons why I created Ancestral
Mm,
Muses, is so that people can listen to the stories, because everybody has a story to
hmm
tell, of my friends, share their life stories, adventures,
hmm
whatever, and that hopefully their stories will serve as an inspiration, or you'll
hmm
learn something you didn't
hmm
know. Like when I talked about, I'm a consumer of music, but after reading your manual, I have a greater appreciation for what goes into the process of making music, and specifically what your
Yeah, I
process
consider
is.
you a producer. I think I can make you an honorary producer.
Well, thank you.
Because I'll tell you why. Because
Okay.
there's different levels to this, and like some at a certain point, yeah, you're using instruments and you're making songs, but then when you get down to like the rawness of what a producer is really it's starting with a word. And I notice how you speak. You are creating. You're building worlds. You're building bridges. You're definitely producing tomorrow with what you say today. And I notice when you speak, you have command over your word. And I just off the back, I told my wife today, I'm like, yeah, she's a producer because you can speak, you know how to speak, and you're a creator, and you have a lot of creations. So
Well, thank you. You honor me, and again, the whole point is moving forward. We have to, as I said in the vision board, we have to
yeah,
collaborate.
I'm seeing that now.
We gotta
Yeah.
we gotta reach out to people, because you know what? You have skills and talents I don't.
Hmm.
But then conversely, I have skills and talents you don't. So if more people thought of collaborating with people of like mind, and just
Yeah.
opening up. I mean, think about what we could do and produce, etc.
I
So
think,
that's just a word to people who are listening to, if you think you got no skills, that's probably not true. I just think that people, hopefully, in this time out, have taken the time to recognize that indeed you do have
yeah.
skills. You just maybe never took the time to figure out or listen to that voice inside your
Hmm.
head. Okay, but now is the time. We are
Hmm.
recreating the world that we live in, and there's no better time than now, the present, to make your dreams come true, to dream a
Yeah.
dream that can be true.
Yes,
See what I'm
yes, yes,
saying?
yes. Speak.
So for all of you that are out there, I want to share with you that Raphael did in fact create
Hmm.
music for ancestral muses. And so you're going to get woo, a premiere, okay? So you know what? I didn't even ask you. I mean, should we like name it? And if
Ah.
so, you produced it. So you get to think about, do you want to name it? I mean, it just can't be like nameless, can it?
Actually, I listened to a Michael Jackson song today, and it was on his
Yeah.
his latest album, like the one after he passed. It's called Escape, the album, and he has a song, and I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking about it today, and the song is "Take Me to a Place Without No Name." And I thought about that. I'm like, 'cause Michael Jackson's deep. He's probably immersed in all his knowledge, and he wants to be somewhere where he doesn't know like what's going on or what this place is. He wants something new, something that hasn't been claimed or named or anything. So maybe I don't know if that means anything to you, but
That spoke to me. So are you saying we're so bad, we're so deep, we should just let it be nameless and let it speak for itself? In the law, there's this Latin phrase that it says, that phrase is res ipsa
Mhm.
loquitur, Latin, and it translates and it means the thing speaks for itself.
Woo! Woo! Ooh!
See, my law education did not go to
Ooh!
waste.
Can you say
People,
that
okay,
again?
so how
Can you say
about
that
that?
again?
Res ipsa loquitur, the thing speaks for
That is
itself.
so deep. That's Latin, huh?
Yes, that's
Wow. I
Latin.
took one Latin class, but I didn't. Wow, Latin. Ooh.
Well, when you go to law school, a lot of the law or principles are Latin based. So,
Oh, we gotta.
but it's the same thing with medical school. I mean, there are lots of professions. Well, in fact, I mean, the English language, I mean, a lot of languages are derivative of Latin.
Yeah.
So,
So they're teaching you it. So it is a. They're teaching you principles.
yeah, well, they refer to Latin as a
Yeah.
dead language, but when I was in high school, I actually
Yeah.
took Latin, and there are still schools in the United States and throughout the world that teach Latin. For that reason is because so much of the English language and
Hmm.
other languages, the words
Yeah.
are derived from the Latin, and professional schools and professions like, law,
Yeah.
medicine, just to name two that I
Yeah.
can think of, so much of their
Uh.
concepts are Latin
So
words
they're
and
really
phrases.
created by the people for the people without any corruption. Like there's no corruption in medicine or lawyer or law.
Are you trying to ask me whether or not doctors or lawyers are or are not
No, the
corrupt?
teachings of the art, like the art of law, when they teach it to you, you're saying they're teaching you. I never heard of being taught a principle. I just know Bible stuff. So if there's something else out
So yes,
there,
so the next time you come through and visit, I will show you my case
mm,
books, okay? And yes, when law school is a process, it teaches you how to think, how to
oh,
approach
oh,
a problem, okay? How to
woo,
research. and a lot of legal principles and concepts are
Hmm.
they're Latin. Just like in medicine and in pharmacy, a lot of terminology is Latin.
So does that mean this is my last question? Because I'm sorry, this is your podcast, but
No, look. We
yeah,
exchange
I'm
of
intrigued.
information. We are learning. That's what we do. This is what we do. We
I'm
learn,
intrigued.
okay?
So could law or medicine be a religion as well, or is it a religion?
Hmm. You know what?
Another podcast,
I'm
next
gonna say this.
podcast.
No, I'm going to say this, and it could be another podcast. That's an interesting question. And just for the audience, I think there's a way you can leave comments, suggestions. I don't know how to do it, but if you figure it out, please feel free to comment and leave suggestions. You know, difference between religion and spirituality, at least in my mind. Okay.
Hmm.
And so anything, anything that how can I say this? That you feel, I guess, so deeply about that moves you in a certain kind of way, that can be either a religious experience or a spiritual experience. There are people, obviously, who devote their life to the study and pursuit of law and medicine. So, at some level or levels, I guess you could say that the practice of law or medicine for them could be akin to a religion. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to think about that. And yes, perhaps we will
And
come back
perhaps
and have a
people will
discussion.
chime in and comment on their take, because that might be somewhere they might want to say something.
Exactly. Exactly. But now, without further ado,
Yes,
producer, and since I'm an honorary producer, co
co-producer,
producer, Pamela Bussey, and the main producer, Raphael Polk,
executive.
I'm going to turn it over to you for you to unveil the music that you've created, which either it shall be nameless or we're going to throw that Latin phrase out that I said, race ipsa locator.
Woo! That just rolls out the tongue like fighting words. Oh my gosh, that is.
Oh, hopefully
Oh.
my Temple Law community, I'm doing them proud. So for all of my Temple Law graduates, although it's now called Beasley School of
Mhm.
Law, yes, the big T,
You
Temple.
know, this conversation has brought up so many memories of past lives that I used to live, and I'm just wowed that there's there's this information out there, and I think in my life I operate by seasons. And I actually made an album called New Seasons, which I recreated the seasons, and I had music for each season. But I am thankful for you in this season, and I'm glad I met you. You've been nothing but a blessing, and every time to meet up with you through whatever it is always uh, a great experience. You bring so much to the table, and I'm humbled, as that you see me, that you would want to talk to me, and and um and I know the first time we met at Fusion Fest, the World Festival,
Mm-hmm.
that we just started
Yep.
talking, and I think you saw the best of me, and I'm grateful for that. And that's how I like to be. I like that festival because I got to jump in those shoes. When I'm going to another country, I kind of leave all my old stuff behind. I'm a new creature when I step out that plane, and the type of person I am when I travel, I go to the heart of of the town. I go to the locals, and before you know it,
Exactly.
we're all taking pictures and we're laughing, and they're trying to speak English and I'm trying to speak Italian or whatever it is. And And normally in my past, I travel with my music. And that's always been a little gimmick of mine that I would bring my music and they would meet a random traveler and I would have a traveler's gift. And so without further ado, I was commissioned to produce this music. Um, what I'm going to play is a piece of it. It is currently nameless. It was created for this podcast, Ancestral Muses. I want to give a big thank you to Carolyn Harding. She's been a blessing as well. She's always seen the best of me and always, it's just some people have kindness, overflow of kindness, and those people are lights in this world, and I'm grateful for being illuminated by their illumination. So I'm going to play this music right now. I have it preset. I have to get my volume adjusted, so I'm going to play a little a little um demo to get my speaker warmed up, and then I will switch to music
Okay.
to to um to the podcast.
No problem. And while you do that, the point here is that we all hopefully can become lights for each other.
All right, here we go. I gotta my speaker kicks on right here, so kick on, go, go, go. Is it playing?
Nope.
Oh, it should be coming in a little bit.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
I did.
Okay,
I
so
did.
now let's get. Okay, so here there's three pieces. I'm gonna play either the third piece or piece C or piece tres, whatever we end up naming it. Here it goes. All right.
All I can say is wow. I mean, when you played that for me, I was just like, "Oh my goodness." I
You
mean,
you took
you took just my like words and you created, I mean, it's like you were 100% on
Thank
it.
you.
I mean, to me, that is a God given talent and gift. And what a blessing you two have been in my life, and that you blessed me with that creativity and that music. And I thank you. It's beautiful. It really is. I mean, I'm amazed that you don't believe that you, with this God-given talent, that you, through music, you get to move people, change people, open up people's hearts and
Mm,
minds. And that moving forward, I'm sure you and I, as well
mm,
as your wife and other people, as we expand the circle of people
mm.
that we meet, that we're connected to, that we all collaborate
Yeah,
with each other, and share our gifts and talents with those that want to be,
yeah, I
inspired.
totally agree. And that the collaboration, I mentioned it in my Facebook group. The collaboration is big, and I've seen I a lot of things are starting to pick up as far as collaboration. And I just wanted to say that um one thing you unrevealed to me again, something that I forgot for a while, but is the challenge. That challenge is a good thing, and when you are challenged, it is a good thing. We need to be challenged. We need to do things we haven't done before. And I'm not gonna keep saying we. I'm saying I. But
Well, no, I think that's true for
okay.
everybody. That's how you grow. If you're not exposed to new information,
Yeah,
new thoughts, new ideas, then
yeah,
you're stagnant. We had that conversation about
yeah,
energy, that everything, every living thing
yeah.
is energy, and how we are energy. And so you can be positive energy, you can
Mhm,
be negative energy, you can be
mhm,
stagnant energy. It's a choice that
mhm.
you make.
So yeah,
Okay. And so
mhm,
we're choosing we're choosing to be positive
mhm.
energy, hopefully.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So, Mr.
Yes.
Raphael, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And for the listening audience, stay tuned for how I figure out how to get
Mhm,
the music in my library so I can appropriately
mhm.
utilize it. Okay. And please feel free to leave any comments. And would you like to say any parting words, Mr. Raphael, the man, the producer?
Um. Yeah. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Karen, for helping me with the music. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for those daily talks. You know, my parents and stuff. But yeah, I really do encourage the listeners to look up this book. It is a short read, but I think it's very concise. It's not a very technical book as far as numbers and um, like definitions and stuff. It's more of a a, a a manual to have with you in the studio. So if you don't know what you're doing or you don't know what to do, I just really insist that you touch the book and open it up, and you will have the inspiration you need to get to those thoughts that might be on the other side of that wall. And and it will give you the confidence that you need because, like I said, this book is dedicated to my wife and my son Muhammad. At the time, Muhammad was like 4 months, and I thought to myself, "What am I going to teach this boy? What am I going to teach my son?" And I locked myself
Mm-hmm.
into my boutique, figuratively speaking, uh, for a couple weeks, and then I just wrote and I wrote, and these are my parting words. Not parting, but these are my words to my son. That this is the knowledge that I can pass down to him to give him strength. And when I got back home, I finished the aesthetics of the book, and that is what Pamela read. This is the same book that was in Africa, West Africa, being written at the late nights. That's what she read, and I think that's what brought us here today. So I just want to thank her for allowing allowing me to speak about this book, and I do recommend that you pick this up. Uh, and yeah, that's what I would like to say.
And so I just want to piggyback on that. This book that you've created, and when you create music and your son is there and he sees you being creative and creating music, that's
Mm,
what your legacy is. So your son is seeing the possibilities.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? Of what he can become through you because you do learn by example and you lead by example. So that's what you're giving to your son and hopefully any other children you have because certainly women can drum just like you.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? And I think in doing what you do, and in me doing what I do try to honor the memory of my ancestors. And so the drumming to me, it speaks to that as well, because again, it's Africa, it's the heartbeat, and Africa was the mother, the cradle of civilization. So we're going full circle in honoring our ancestors. And again, I want to thank everybody that listens to ancestral music, and thank you for your support. And I'm sure you'll be hearing from Raphael again. I'm sure we'll find something else that we can talk about in the very near future. So I will say good night, and again, thank you for creating that music, which again, it's your legacy and it will live on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
And good night. All righty.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Take it easy.